Recording in progress.
WBZD.
Hey guys, welcome back to WBZD. I'm Ashlyn.
I'm Ronnie.
I'm Natalie.
I'm Joyce.
And we are
GT14!
architecture students from the University of Hawaii studying abroad at Tongji University in Shanghai. Today we'll be talking about our experience traveling to Singapore. During the study abroad year in China, the Global Track program plans a school field trip to a foreign country. And this year, our cohort decided to travel to Singapore. This field trip took place during the end of our winter break, and we would like to thank the University of Hawaii for covering our costs of flights and hotel. This trip helped us learn how different countries work on an architecture and urban scale and opened our eyes to new experiences and sites. To help share our experience traveling to Singapore, we would like to welcome back David to the podcast. Woo! And we would also like to welcome Roland to the podcast. Woo! Both David and Roland are really good friends that we met at Tongji University, and they joined us on their journey to Singapore. Could each of you guys please introduce yourself?
Well, you know me from last podcast. I'm David. I study urban planning at TU Vienna, and I'm doing a double degree here in Tongji.
Yeah, I'm Roland. I'm also studying at TU Vienna, and I'm doing architecture. And here I'm also doing the double degree program. I'm really excited to be here.
Also, if anybody notices a big difference on how I speak this time and how much I spoke last time, I was sick and trying not to cough during the whole episode, so that's the difference for today.
Feeling much better now.
Much more energized.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. We want to start off this podcast with something fun. So we prepared a couple Hawaiian words for our friends, David and Roland, to pronounce. So you guys can open your papers in front of you, and we're going to go through the list together.
Number one.
Number one.
Hana Hua.
Right, it's a OU, right? So I would say, I don't know, I would say Hanaho, but it's probably wrong. Oh, it's
yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
I see.
Hanaho.
Wow. Just you read it as it's written.
So what does it mean?
Oh, hanaho means like encore.
Encore, like when you're in a concert, you're like hanaho, like one more song.
All right. That's
okay,
cool. All right,
that's
that's cool. That's
cool,
cool. We will use that when we are in Hawaii. In
Number two.
So now you have to try first.
I have to try first. So there's a W in the middle. I would guess it's like, it's just like as simple as Iwa.
Roland, what's your guess?
Ewa?
So W's normally sound like V's in Hawaii.
All right. Okay.
So it's Eva.
Eva.
Ah, okay. What's
Like
the meaning
ever?
of it?
No.
Yeah, Eva.
It's like a place. So it's a place
okay.
on the west side of Oahu Island. We usually go to Ewa Beach, basically.
That's cool.
Number three.
Like. No, I guess that's totally wrong.
I'm just gonna go with a more like how I think pitch and sounds, which might be very wrong, but more like a Lika highway.
Yeah, so it's Like Hawaii.
All right,
Number four.
you go first.
No, you go first. No, I can go first. Waimanalo.
Wow, I don't
Oh,
have to
that's
say
good.
anything
Right
then.
off the bat, that was really good.
So let me process the word first.
They're trying to do number five right now, and it's a long one.
Maybe while
No,
I
I
was
thi-
thinking, what's the meaning of Waimanalo?
Oh, it's just a place.
Just
On
it's a
Oahu.
place. Oh, that's cool.
so, well, then I feel sorry for the people living at Humu Nukunu Kuapua.
Roland, you want to take a stab at it?
Oh no. I gotta pass on that.
So what's Humu Nukunu Kuapua?
Humu Humu Nuku Nuku Apua'a is our state fish.
Oh.
That was really close.
Yeah,
Much better
really
than I
good.
can say it. I can't
Thank
say
you.
it.
Thank you.
That was all pretty good. That was all good.
Good job.
Thank you guys for playing our little game. Okay, now we can jump straight into our podcast for today where we're talking about our trip to Singapore. Is there anything that you guys want to start off with? Anything you guys remember? It was quite a little while ago, so.
Actually, a good starting point for that was when we arrived at Singapore. And the first thing that my friends from Hawaii saw was that Shak Shak place. And they were like so excited to have proper American fast food. So instead of going to a typical Singaporean place, we just went straight there and ordered ourselves some burgers.
Yeah, burgers and milkshakes. Super Singaporean. Only in Singapore is there a giant shopping mall attached to the outside of the airport with a giant, they call it the Jewel, with a giant indoor waterfall. And it's crazy.
The first sightseeing stop already in the airport.
Yeah, you haven't even left the airport yet.
And I did say before I went to Singapore, I'm willing to spend a lot of time in the airport just exploring what's there. And it was pretty nice that we got there, and it was around 10-ish before the shops closed. And they had a light show at the Jewel, like where the waterfall is and everything. And it was nice. Like, we made it just on time.
I think what's also cool about the airport is it's so massive and it's open like 24 hours because we actually stayed over there overnight while we were waiting for our flight to go back to Shanghai. So
Okay, so if we are talking already about going back and being in the airport, I also discovered while wandering through the night on the airport that there was like a playing area where you could like slide down, and that was very fun to be like there at, I don't know, 4 in the morning and be like, oh, so if you scan your ticket, you can slide down.
Yeah. That was actually fun. I actually walked around just to go find that slide.
Yeah.
Well, that's crazy. They had like butterfly gardens and they have like free movie theaters and like,
Yeah,
it's a crazy nice airport.
Yeah, no, it is a nice airport. Yeah, we arrived on the next day and we also made a stop at the Jewel and then met you guys already at the National Museum, which was like our first official program destination on our plan. What did you think about the museum?
I don't think I remember that museum too well because I just remember it was raining that day.
Yeah, that also was the first thing that came to my mind when thinking about the museum. It was like crazy. We were like, okay, I'm done. I've seen everything, but it's still pouring.
It was
Yeah.
like pouring rain.
Yeah, the exhibition, like one part was closed, right?
I think like the
of
main
museum,
gallery
the main
was
gallery.
closed or something. Yeah.
But we visited like this other exhibition, which was about a bit of Singapore's history and all of the migration and the different stories. Like that's the part I remember the most, where they had some interviews from people that came to the island and how their experience was, like coming from China or coming from India or different parts of the world, and how they integrated, what was their first job, and how the island changed on all of that time. And I found those interviews actually to be quite valuable and quite interesting. I would have loved to have more time to see them all, and maybe they are somewhere in the internet. And if someone is interested in that history of Singapore, I think that's a very interesting part to see how this country built up itself through migration.
Yeah, I thought that part was really cool. It's like one of my favorite parts as well. Because it was like down in the basement, right? And you could like listen to all the top things. They had like old ones, but then they also had some from like newer immigrants that had like just moved to the island and things like that. It was super cool. I was also listening to all of them. And then I looked around, I was like, oh wait, everyone's gone. So I like ran out and met you guys. Because it is like super engaging. It was really cool.
okay, I do remember this museum now. I think I got a little bit confused because we went to an urban museum exhibition thing before you guys came. So we went to go see how Singapore's urban design was designed.
I think that museum was more like imprinted in my brain. Like I remember that a lot better than the National Museum.
Right. I just remember it was my first point, but you've been there already in the morning, and you went to this other museum with the big model, and
Yeah.
And we also went through Chinatown.
Yeah.
I did like the urban museums down on the bottom. They had like little like exhibitions for like young architects, and I thought it was really cool because it was like sponsored by the national government, and just seeing them like invested in these young architects and like the uprising of like the new art form, I guess you could say, of architecture. Like seeing them actually being invested in was kind of cool. So I feel like in the U.S. I've never felt that like the government was really interested in architects at all, just regulating it. So that's really cool.
It was also really funny to see those young architects displayed as young architects, and they were 40 and above.
no age shaming.
I still have hope.
But it was also nice to see other like different architect works, like what kind of works they're working on, and how the drawing aspects of it too, and materials. Yeah.
There was actually one drawing which was like hand drawn from memory. I don't know if you guys remember
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah.
drawing.
From the same artist that was in New York.
Yeah, he's
When
done
I
a
look up
lot.
his name.
Yeah. That was really cool. Like, I saw a video of him before I came, and I saw him draw New York. Like, he was in a helicopter, and he memorized all the things, how it looked and everything, and then he drew it by hand on paper, I think, using pen. And I thought that was really interesting, and it's really nice to see it in person.
For anybody who wants to look it up, his name is Stephen Wiltshire.
I also wanted to add that I think I like that museum a lot because we were able to see the big, massive model of Singapore, but you get to see all these different landmarks where you kind of studied these buildings before as an architecture student. Like, for example, the Park Royal on Pickering, and you're able to see where it is in location to other buildings as well. And then you kind of know where everything is. So when you go out into the city, we were able to walk to those places and see what it was like.
You can also see like the future plannings of the city, which is interesting to like be on a bird view and be there and be able to see like, oh, that's where I'm going to be tomorrow. And so something's going to be happening there. Or yeah, those are the plans.
Oh, it is interesting in the Urban Planning Museum how it's like I've been to the one here in Shanghai, and it's very like Shanghai's very proud of its urban planning, rightly so. They plan everything. But it's interesting seeing Singapore, how they've been doing it for the past 50 years, ever since they became an independent country. Because they're like, wait, we have limited resources. We literally have only so much land, and we can't expand. Well, they've expanded, but they're stuck. And so like every so many years, they create a new plan and how it ties into their long-range goals and stuff. I thought it was really cool.
We just had to hand in a report on 16 advanced lectures that we visited here in Tongji University. And the first one I was writing about was, because I was reviewing it lately, was about the Dean's Conference and how also this guy from the Singapore National University came. And he was just, I have this citation of him of saying like, yeah, we have good planning because we have very limited resources. And you can really see that around the city or throughout the city.
They're like super sustainable, and it showed in the museum. They showed the process of how water is recycled, how energy is recycled, and yeah, it was amazing.
While we're on the topic of museums, we also visited the affordable housing, I think exhibitions.
Oh yeah, so we went to HDB Hub, yeah.
Yes.
And it's like where Singaporeans can go, because they have like, long story short, like 80 some odd percent, almost 90% of Singaporeans live in government housing, but they're like really fancy and really nice, like full on apartments. And they have the HDB Hub where you can go and kind of like shop for your house, where they have like mock-ups of all the different unit types, like 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 4 bedroom, whatever. And you can like walk around them, and it was really cool being able to see all the different designs. And you can get like the upgraded sinks, so you can get this, you can upgrade it. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. They pretty much come fully furnished. That's so amazing to see. And you can really look at all around this. The only thing you should not do is get inside a closet or anything.
They're very spacious. They're very spacious, those closets.
There was a PA announcement from the uncle of staff that was working there. Like, excuse me, handsome man, please do not lock yourself in the closet.
I got called a handsome man, so I cannot complain.
I think what amazed me about those units was it was so nice, and for an affordable housing, I think it is livable to live in there and be comfortable living in there.
And what I also liked is this little detail that everybody took out their shoes before entering those apartments.
Oh yeah, for the mock apartments,
For the
right?
mock
Yeah.
apartment, yeah.
I liked seeing the master plan of those affordable housing like places because they weren't just building the building, they're building an entire like city almost. They kind of they designed like a block, and it included facilities like green spaces. Besides like the housing itself, there's also other amenities that is for the residents there, which I thought was really interesting.
I think they call them like HDB towns. And so, yeah, they have like the hospital, they have everything like all self-contained. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Like, and usually it's designed like around like a metro stop or MRT, like they call it in Singapore.
Yeah.
It's like really well designed.
And I think it was interesting to learn about this because we're also trying to do affordable housing in Hawaii, and so that's a big issue we're trying to solve also. So I think it was nice to try to see how some other places are trying to accommodate for affordable housing.
Yeah, Roland and me and Hannah, we went to a social housing building on one of the evenings because we saw it was open. And as urban planners and architects, our curiosity was bigger than our inhibition to not enter. What were your thoughts on the building, like to see it, because it's a difference to see like the mock thing and to see like the real thing? I mean, we didn't enter apartments, but we saw the building itself.
I found it very interesting that not only the flats were, of course, being lived in, but also the outdoor space and the hallways were really used by the people. There were racks of shoes, there were bikes, of course, even lots of plants and seating areas were developed by the people themselves and not provided by the state or anything. So you could really feel like there's a community growing and not only forced living together, but rather forcing themselves to be part of the community and try to make something bigger out of it.
Yeah, it looks very lively and very like personalized, which makes it like a nice neighborhood feeling when you are there. Like, I took pictures, and I think you could do just an exhibition on this topic on hallways from public housing buildings in Singapore. It's very interesting, and they were very different and always adapted to the needs of that family or that set of families living there. 10 out of 10 I would recommend.
Also, the public spaces that were provided were really nicely done, like the playgrounds. We saw there was a parking garage, of course, because in Singapore there are sometimes basically lot car-centered. But on top of the parking garage, there was a really nice playground with shading and stuff to really hang out and not only wasted space.
Yeah, and as you just said, they have community centers or on that specific building, they had like some rooms to rent out a space and have a meeting there and those sort of things. So they look very lively. I think they do a great job.
Yeah, I think the HDB's board does like a really good job of not only providing housing, but like you're saying, like having like an actual livable space. Like I remember when I lived in Singapore years ago, having like someone's wake there after they had passed away. It just like community came together in that community space down on the bottom floor. And that was just the perfect space. Because I feel like in the US, when you like have an apartment, they're like, oh, amenities, you have like a game room or something like that. But there's no like community space. Like you'd have to go to a park or something like that for that kind of thing.
What did you guys think about the transportation in Singapore?
I was shocked by how little bikes there were on the streets, and people weren't really biking. But I kind of understand it because the weather there is hotter compared to, I guess, like Hawaii or Shanghai. But I also think it's also because the metro is much more, like the stops are closer, so it's more efficient that way. And you don't really have to walk too far to get to the place you need to get to. Whereas in Shanghai, if we're like comparing the two places, Shanghai is much bigger, so the stations are much farther apart, and it might take you more than 15 to 20 minutes if you're trying to walk to a certain place from the metro station.
I think there's always a few factors that affect cycling in the city. Two big ones are that might apply for Singapore is, first of all, I'm just reviewing the pictures from the city right now at my phone. Like almost no bike infrastructure at all, lots of no cycling signs. So that makes it not easy and also not safe to cycle. And then, as you just mentioned, great public transport brings people that would maybe otherwise bike to go on public transport. That's something that we see in Vienna, for example, having a very high share of public transport and a very low share of bikes.
Because I think
Bike trips.
we almost took every single type of transportation in Singapore. We took the monorail, the subway, a bus pretty often.
Because I know the MRT design in Singapore, like in the center areas, they're trying to get like so many stops within like 500 meters of any spot. You'd have an MRT stop. But then once you get out into the suburbs, they get like further and further away. And so when you go to those stops in like an HDB town, they have like a transit hub where there's like shopping and everything, but then you can get on your bus that then takes you the rest of your way. So you take like the bus to the MRT and then the MRT straight downtown, which I feel like is a very convenient way to do it. And because there's only so many cars allowed on the island, you don't really have to worry about traffic jams with the bus. So the buses get through very efficiently, unlike places like Shanghai or Honolulu where they just get stuck in traffic or something like that.
What I also found very interesting was, especially in the more densely inner city areas, the walkways were always with a roof on top. Like it was, so to say, shaded and also protected by from the rain. As it's in a tropical climate, it rains very often, and so it was really convenient to still go on the sidewalks from one point to the other.
Yeah, it's absurd. They have one of the largest networks on exactly that kind of pedestrian infrastructure where it's covered by a roof.
Yeah, I was honestly shocked. Like you were talking about the pedestrian walkways, but in certain areas there was a lack of pedestrian walkways, which I thought was really interesting because it seemed more vehicle friendly than it was pedestrian friendly. Like when we were at the University of Singapore.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The long walk, the long march.
Yeah.
It was uphill. That and also this adaptive reuse place that we visited. I think it was a relatively new place that just opened, so there wasn't much going on then. So there wasn't a lot of people there. There wasn't a lot of cars, but going from building to building, there's no pedestrian walkway. It's just parking lots, which I thought was really interesting for a city that was more supposedly pedestrian friendly.
Maybe we can talk about the university. You just mentioned it.
So last semester in Tongji, in Shanghai, Tongji, I met somebody from Singapore, and he took us to NUS, the National University of Singapore, to tour his architecture school. And it was really, really cool to be able to tour their studios and see how their program works. What were your guys' thoughts on their architecture program there?
I thought it was pretty good because when we entered, they had this exhibition thing that they were going on. And so we got to see other people's works that they were holding. And it was also more immersive because you're able to see a lot of other works, but also like able to touch and immerse yourself into the projects.
I think one thing I really liked about their school was the fabrication center. It was really nice. They had high-tech things that you can build. And I also really enjoyed that they had a material library. I think that was really nice because I think as architecture students, at least when you're starting off, you're not really aware of all the different materials and what it's used for. So being able to be hands-on with the materials and actually see it in person definitely helps.
I kind of liked how he took us through the different studios, like the undergrad studios, the graduate studios, and you're able to see what NUS is, I guess, teaching in terms of education curriculum-wise. But I found it interesting how they had a very high emphasis on the facade designs. Like, I think they started addressing facade designs in first or second year of undergrad, which I thought was interesting because that's something we don't really think about when we were designing during undergrad. But I guess in Singapore, it's very important because they're trying to address climate issues, the heat, the sun, and everything like that. And you can see that in the architecture in Singapore. Like, it's all the buildings are pretty fascinating. Like, they have pretty interesting facade designs.
And all the projects we saw, they were very creative and like really coming up with new ideas, because sometimes I have the feeling, I mean, I'm not an architect, but when I see people working here, that many works go on the same direction, and there you would see really like a huge range of different ideas, which I've never thought about myself, and also the very creative ways on addressing things, also in terms of presenting and bringing a lot of their own culture, I think, because maybe that has something to do with the identity of Singapore itself and how it builds up from many different cultures. But you could see like elements from the places these people maybe came from when they came to study to Singapore, maybe where their roots are. And you could see that a lot. You just spoke about the facade, on the facade, on the roofs, all of those elements. And yeah, the quality of the models was very impressive. It was better than some museums we have visited.
Yeah.
And I also think the studio space itself was designed really well. Especially it was totally open, and each year had its own floor. And so you could always walk through the studio spaces and see the works of other people and what they're currently working on. So you had a lifetime view on all the projects and get inspired. That's something that I would really love to see in universities like Donji or also in Vienna. Sadly, we don't have that much of an open space.
Also, great shout out to the canteen.
Yeah.
They have such a variety on food, and everything was delicious. And once again, you see how a melting pot of cultures it is, because you can get you can get Malay dishes, you can get Chinese dishes, you can get
Indian food, Western food.
yeah.
I really enjoyed the design of the canteen because it gave you that indoor-outdoor feeling. It was an open-air seating area, and I think being in like a tropical climate, it's kind of nice to be able to just sit outside without being outside.
Yep.
It reminded me a lot of some of the other food markets that we went to, the hawker centers. Because basically, for those who haven't been to Singapore, a hawker center is kind of like
The best thing.
the best thing ever. It's kind of like if you took like a street market, night market, and then made like actual concrete stalls out of it that are permanent. People will bid for an opportunity to open a small stall in the hawker center, and then they serve like food or drinks or desserts or whatever. Like we had the world's cheapest Michelin star dinner there, but it's fun because most of them are outside, and you just like it's just a bunch of tables surrounded by a bunch of stalls, so you and your friends can go out and eat, but everybody can pick whatever they want, and then you come back and eat together, and it's like a super social thing. And I think it was like really good for like social cohesion. I wish we had that kind of stuff in the US. It'd be really cool.
One thing I would suggest is to bring cash though, because I feel like some of us were so used to paying in China that we were using our phones that we got there and we're like, oh shoot, we don't have cash. So luckily some of us did exchange cash and we were able to use up all that cash and have to exchange more money later on.
I thought we could use card when we were there, but card didn't work. They only accept cash and a different form of payment, which is kind of like a QR code. But I think you have to set up something on your phone in order to use it, and we weren't able to do that. So I also want to talk about the hawker centers and how that's so different from like Singapore prices. Yeah, I think we enjoyed the hawker centers because there was a lot of food variety, but also the food was way cheaper than what you would get outside of the hawker centers. Singapore is a little more expensive. It's close to what you would be paying in Hawaii.
Yeah, on that topic, the first time I was in Singapore, which was 10 years ago, I was also thinking I was going to spend all my savings on being there. Fortunately, I didn't, because there's a huge range on what you can pay for food. And the hawker centers, which are like every neighborhood has one, and they have delicious food over there. But also some neighborhoods, for example, we were staying in Little India, and there you can also find like little restaurants where food is very affordable. So you can be paying from $3 to 30 Singapore dollars for a meal, and that's completely normal in that city.
But then also on the flip side, we went to Malaysia.
We did do a day trip to Malaysia, which might sound kind of weird. Like they went to a day trip to another country, but we went to Johor Bahru across the strait, which is kind of the big urban area that's developing right across the border from Singapore. And Malaysia and Singapore are so tightly connected. It's literally across a bridge, and you just go over and people go shopping for the day and come back, vice versa, each different side. But that was a fun trip. What were your guys' best memories of that trip?
I think one thing that shocked me the most was the price differences, because our lunch meal in Malaysia was so cheap. It was really good food. I think we went to this like really fancy Malaysia food place, but each of us was paying less than $10 per person, which was pretty affordable. And then on the flip side, Singapore was you got to pay at least 15 to get the same type of food, same type of service in that kind of restaurant.
I feel like we didn't really travel around Malaysia that much, and I do wonder how their transportation is like, because most of the times we did just take a taxi to the different places we were going to. But I think it would be interesting to see like how the bus system works, or if there's a subway system.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed the trip a lot. It was very interesting. I love border towns. I'm very interested in how they work and the relations with other towns. But yeah, we just had like a day, and actually it was half a day. But it was interesting also to see like it was similar to Singapore in some aspects, but also it was different than many other. And then we all got traumatized by Kota jail.
What was that?
So we went to this old jail, which is now like a culture center. But if I recall correctly, it was open until 2016. We got a tour from a guide there, and she showed us all around, and you could really imagine how it was, because it hadn't been like that long, and there were still like the different sketches from people on the wall, and she would explain how many people would be in those small cells and how everything would work, and it seemed very fresh. It seemed very fresh. I don't know, how did you feel in there?
To preface this, we did do this voluntarily, and I think that we were all just shocked at how raw it was, and I guess, how it was just so new. And we thought, I think in our heads, we were going there thinking it was going to be more like a museum-like situation, but they kind of immerse you into this experience, which does get a more eerie feeling. But I think it was just very interesting because I've never toured a jail before. So this was like the first jail that I ever went into and saw. And it was pretty interesting to kind of see what it's like there versus what I see like online or like on the news in like the US jails and how different that is and how they treat the prisoners differently as well.
So I would not recommend doing a crime in Malaysia.
Yeah. No, because it was all fun and games. Like we were seeing the place and trying to imagine how it is to be there. Taking photos, seeing like, oh, that's where they used to do sport, that's where they took them out to have a shower, whatever. But then we got to that final room, which is where they showed us a video on how they punish people. And I think that was like the traumatizing part, because that's when we realized, well, this is for real and this is still happening, which it's not only happening in Malaysia, it's happening in many countries. But as you said, we got like a raw definition of how it is and how things really work on those jails, and then being in that very place. Like I've been to other jails. I've been in Hong Kong or in just before that trip, and it was a very different feeling because it's more of an artsy space and an exhibition space now. I've been in the Netherlands where jails are used as libraries, and they're all these hipstery places, and I think they're going for that too, like in some future. But still, I really appreciate that we came at a time where we could like really experience that roughness, because it has been, as I said, I've been to other jails and I've never came out with this feeling or this view of it.
I do find it interesting how when we went, they were still in the process of changing the jail into a more cultural place. So everything was like somewhat new, and some places were still pretty old. Like there's still that jail part there, and we were able to see like that difference. Because when we first entered, it was some newly renovated cafe spots, which I imagined that entire place to be like. But then you see the existing conditions of the buildings and what used to be there, and it's still there. So we got a tour of that, and that kind of freaked me out a little bit. I think we all kind of went in there giggling, like we don't know what to expect. We were taking a lot of pictures. We were going into the cells, and we were like, oh, let's take a picture together. And then by the end, I think it started getting eerie, like after you start learning a little more about what prison life was like in there and how like these prisoners were going through all these things. So you start freaking out, and then you kind of come back out to the cafe spot with a completely different feeling.
Not in the mood for a coffee.
No. Excited to see what that space becomes, though.
The architecture was a really cool place.
So going on a more upbeat topic, what did you guys think about the Marina Bay Sands?
It's so interesting. It's kind of like as if like us coming to Shanghai and you see the Shanghai skyline, and then you go to Marina Bay Sands and then it's the Singapore skyline. It's what you've seen in movies, what you've seen in pictures and things like that. So interesting. It's like, wow, I'm finally here. It was really nice seeing all the things that I expected to see, I guess. But it was also fascinating how close everything was. Like we kind of walked through everything basically.
I think I was just shocked about how not crowded it was actually, because every single time we went there, I felt like there was enough space for you to take photos, enough space for you to walk around. The Merlion was probably the crowdedest area, but everywhere else was not that crowded compared to like Shanghai's Bund. I feel like it's always crowded.
Yeah.
And those who are not familiar, the Marina Bay Sands is the really famous three towers that have kind of like the boat resting on top and connecting all the three towers with the infinity edge pool on the top. It's quite impressive, and that's surrounded by the Marina Bay Gardens. And we went inside. They have two big glass dome buildings that have ecological things inside. There's one that's more desert and florally, and then we went in my favorite one, which is the rainforest one. And there's like literally they've built a mountain inside with like all this rainforesty stuff and waterfalls and things. I guess originally intended to be kind of like an ecological education thing, but I don't know if it was just funding or whatever. But this most recent time we went, they had sold out to Jurassic Park and there were dinosaurs everywhere, which was cool. I love Jurassic Park and grew up on that. But there were like animatronic dinosaurs and like a T-Rex would like growl at you. It was pretty cool.
But actually, I have to say, as all the structures were so big, like the Marina Bay Sands towers, the greenhouse, and the trees, you felt very small in between. You felt kind of lost in this huge garden. And compared to the rest of the city, which is so dense and where you are a part of the moving society and everything, then you're like, okay, yeah, here I am.
I kind of feel the same way about that garden. Like when I first went there years ago, like the city is so dense, but it's very green and lush at the same time. One of my favorite park areas is the botanical garden, which we didn't get a chance to go to, where it does have the beautiful gardenness, but it's still compact enough that like you feel like you're part of it. Whereas the Marina Bay does sometimes feel like too big, if that makes sense. Like the scale is just so massive, like you're talking about, Roland.
The
It's like you
human
just lose
scale is
yourself.
human scale is completely missing out.
Yeah, I totally agree.
It might be the last night that we were there, we saw fireworks. They were doing some sort of celebration. I think it was post Chinese New Year celebration, something like that. And it was really nice because it was by the Marina Bay Sands, and the fireworks are amazing.
We also went to a silent disco night on top of the roof of Marina Bay Sands, which I thought was really cool because then we also could see the gardens below and see that light up. And I think it was just a really fun way to end the trip.
Yeah. And what I also like about that building is that you, like, if you look to the sea, you see all those lights, which are all of the ships, like waiting to dock or just resting. It's a very nice view to go up to the Marina Bay Sands. I would recommend, and being there on a silent disco was even more fun.
I think going up on top of the roof just reminded me of Crazy Rich Asians, the movie. And I was like, I'm just living my dream.
On the topic of landmarks, are there any specific buildings that you researched before and was able to visit in person? And how was that like? I can go first.
I was gonna say I know what Joyce's is.
For me, it was the Park Royal at Pickering, which is a hotel that has 3 masses, and then in between is connected with landscaping on each level. And it was really interesting visiting there because I didn't expect how big it was. You can't really capture the entire building when you're on the street level, but it was really nice to see what it was like being underneath that, and the scales was way bigger than I expected. And then like walking across the street from there was so close. It was Capitol Spring. It's this building, tall high-rise building that kind of had openings for trees to grow through. I also did a case study on that, and it was really interesting, and I didn't expect those 2 buildings to be so closely located together.
I enjoyed seeing the interlace because you always see that picture from Singapore and that building. It was interesting to see it in real life and how it really feels to be there. A bit different from the feeling, of course, pictures are always well done, but still interesting.
Actually, for me, it's not a single building that I found very interesting, but rather the structure of the neighborhoods, especially Little India, is just so cool as it's, on one hand, it's surrounded like this little town in the middle of the big town, but on the other hand, it's so open. Everyone walks through. You can get there. You can go eat there, have a good time, and that interlace of culture is just so special. I've never seen that before in any other city.
Yeah, well, if we are talking about that, and maybe for our listeners that haven't been to Singapore yet, so you can imagine Singapore being a big city, and in the city center you have like this, I would call them 4 different zones, which are Little India, the Malay Quarter, Chinatown, and the Finance Quarter. And those are all on a walking distance from each other, but like completely different cities, like architecture-wise and culture-wise, and how they feel like. And that's, I think, something quite unique for Singapore, that you can experience, like be on 4 cities in just one day, and then have like completely different things to eat and see completely different kind of people there and culture going on. That's very unique.
I think I kind of agree with Roland. Like my favorite thing is also like neighborhood design, like the way things work. Like I love in Chinatown, there's one square or like a intersection, and on one side there is a Chinese temple, and then there's a mosque, and then there's 2 churches, and there's a Hindu temple like right down the street. And I just love how that's like so symbolic of like everybody working together, even though like have different like backgrounds or whatever. And it was just really, really cool to they're like so close together, but everyone's just kind of like, okay, you do your thing, I'll do my thing, and then we'll go to work on Monday. And that was just really cool. I love that about Singapore.
I think mine is also Park Royal on Pickering because I've done a precedent study on it before I went to Singapore, so it was nice to see it in person than on a computer screen or on a paper.
So I know all this sounds all fun and games, and it sounds like a great vacation for all of us, but it's actually a very educational travel excursion as well. We had assignments every day, and Ben was actually our professor for this, and he encouraged us to write a daily summary and also do a daily sketch and also take photos every day. So did you guys think that helped to remember everything that you saw and did?
Definitely. I kind of like that assignment because it makes you reflect on what you've seen throughout the day. And yeah, it was a fun activity to end the day. And we also posted it in a group chat, and it was really nice to see what everyone was experiencing, what they saw, and what are their takeaways throughout the day.
It was a nice summary of what you learned and what you saw. It's kind of like journaling. You just write what you think about your day and what you think about the city and whatnot.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was just really nice to be able to have like this journal that keeps all the memories that you did every single day, because I feel like when I normally go on a trip, I don't really keep track of those things. So I kind of forget about the things I saw and did. But now I have a little booklet filled of all the things I did in Singapore, little stickers, and all the little knickknacks that I collected along the way.
Actually, I found it really cool to think about your day after being there and just remind yourself of what you did on that day. And also, maybe on the day itself, you're already thinking, what will I do in the evening? How will I frame this day? And for me, it was a challenge to find some topic each day. For example, one day I saw that there's lots of people doing work on the streets. Some were protected by some sunshades. Others were working right on the street with people watching them. Others were hidden away. And at one point I decided, okay, today's topic is the hidden working society of Singapore. So in the end of the day, I draw a full list of items that are used here for working, like coarse chopsticks for the people cooking, a shovel for some guy who was digging something, and combine that with pictures taken. It just feels like, okay, there's so much different stuff going on. If you imagine Singapore, it's just about finance and high-end real estate. No, there's actually people living there and working there from day to day. And that's something really cool that only came into my head after thinking about it.
Yeah, I agree. Like this assignment makes you think about the things you don't really notice when you're traveling, like the everyday day-to-day basis. That's something you don't really experience when you're a tourist in a place. So I agree that this assignment like helped us look at those things.
And I enjoyed the openness of the assignment because it was not like, oh, sketch 3 buildings, or it was very open. Even like sketching is not my strength. I haven't had training on it, but I also enjoyed being able to just draw people or think about a special format. And like on the first day I did something more like it was not really like a comic book, but like I ended up like dividing the paper in 6, and one part was comments and one part was sketches, and the next day would be looking completely different. And it was also, as we just said, very interesting to see how everybody comes up with a different format. Either it is for the sketches or the pictures or just the text we had to write. So yeah, I liked it. I was not sure at the beginning, but it ended up being a good exercise.
And a disclaimer, David and Roland did not have to do this assignment. But you guys also participated, which was great for everyone because we were able to see what you guys are thinking and see what you guys are experiencing as well.
And I think kind of what David was talking about, being able to kind of explore what you're interested in and finding that thing that you find interesting really kind of ties into something we mentioned in our last podcast, was this like how this global track program really encourages you to discover something you're interested in or whatever you're interested in. Like my thesis topic right now that I'm studying, I had no idea anything about it 3 years ago, never would have researched this or anything. This program helps you focus on and find things that you're interested in instead of trying to like put you in a box or like, this is the program, this is what you're going to do. It's like, even though we have required classes and things like that to meet accreditation, like you're able to explore and discover what you want. And all the professors here at Tongji and at Hawaii are all really encouraging that and like helping you to discover more about what you're interested in, which is really cool.
Do you guys have any advice for anyone who is traveling to Singapore soon?
Go try kaya. I love kaya.
Try every food you can find.
But Singapore is literally one of the food capitals of the world. And that doesn't mean you have to spend, like we talked about, $1 million. You can just go to the hawker center and try fusion food. And it's really, really good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you too for being on our podcast today. I think it was really nice to have you on here and share your experiences along with our experiences. And also, thank you so much for coming with us to Singapore. It was so much fun to have you guys along with us.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be there. It was great to travel with you and with Ben, and we enjoyed the time very much.
If you wish to continue to follow our journey, please follow us on Instagram at global_track_architecture. And if you have any specific topics or questions, feel free to leave them down below in the comments or email us at globaltrackarchitecture@gmail.com. And thank you again for joining us today. We hope to see you again soon.
Shoots!